Welcome to Beyond the Call, where history, leadership, and heroism come alive. Today's episode explores Captain Robert Hugo Dunlap's remarkable heroism in World War II, a powerful story of courage and perseverance. If you enjoy learning more about military history and extraordinary individuals, be sure to visit Trackpads.com for articles, podcasts, and more. Robert Hugo Dunlap, a determined and fearless officer of the United States Marine Corps, displayed an extraordinary measure of courage during the ferocious battle for Iwo Jima in February of 1945. As the commanding officer of Company C, 1st Battalion, 26th Marines, 5th Marine Division, Dunlap led his men through a maelstrom of artillery, mortar, and machine gun fire. His leadership and personal bravery in the face of overwhelming enemy resistance would ultimately earn him the nation's highest military honor, the Medal of Honor. In those pivotal 2 days, February 20th and 21st, Dunlap's actions went far beyond the expectations of his role. He moved forward under unrelenting fire, locating enemy gun positions and directing supporting fire with a precision and resolve that saved countless lives and drove the battle toward victory. His calm under pressure, unwavering commitment to his men, and willingness to place himself in constant danger speak to the essence of battlefield heroism. Historical context. By early 1945, the war in the Pacific had reached its most brutal and decisive stage. The Allied island-hopping strategy, aimed at drawing ever closer to the Japanese homeland, had already claimed places like Tarawa, Saipan, and Peleliu at enormous human cost. Each battle had revealed the formidable defensive capabilities of the Imperial Japanese forces, who entrenched themselves in elaborate fortifications and resolved to fight to the last man. The next step in the campaign was Iwo Jima, a small sulfuric island in the Volcano Islands chain, but its strategic importance was immense. Iwo Jima's value lay in its airfields and its location, roughly halfway between the Mariana Islands and the Japanese mainland. Capturing it would provide the United States a forward base for fighter escorts, an emergency landing site for damaged bombers, and a staging ground for a possible invasion of Japan. The Japanese military recognized this importance as well, and under the command of Lieutenant General Tadamichi Kuribayashi, they constructed a complex system of underground tunnels, bunkers, and artillery positions designed to inflict maximum casualties before the island could be taken. The battle began on February 19, 1945, when the 5th Amphibious Corps, composed of the 4th and 5th Marine Divisions, supported by the 3rd, stormed ashore under a massive naval and aerial bombardment. Despite days of pre-invasion shelling, the Japanese defenses remained largely intact, and the Marines faced withering fire from concealed positions as soon as they landed. The terrain itself added to the danger. Loose volcanic ash made movement exhausting, while jagged ridges and cliffs gave defenders commanding fields of fire. In this unforgiving environment, Company C, 1st Battalion, 26th Marines of the 5th Marine Division was tasked with pushing inland against some of the most heavily defended ground on the island. The unit's sector included steep bluffs and cliff faces, where Japanese forces were able to pour deadly fire on any approach. The mission called not only for physical endurance, but for the kind of inspired leadership that could keep men advancing in the face of almost certain death. This was the crucible into which Captain Robert Hugo Dunlap would step, and it would be here that his actions would etch his name into Marine Corps history. Personal background. Robert Hugo Dunlap was born on October 19, 1920, in Abingdon, Illinois, a small Midwestern town surrounded by farmland and shaped by a strong sense of community. Growing up during the Great Depression, he developed a sense of resilience and personal responsibility early in life. Dunlap excelled in school and athletics, standing out as a dedicated student and natural leader, qualities that would serve him well in his future military career. He attended Monmouth College in Illinois, where he was an active participant in campus life and displayed a keen interest in leadership roles. With war looming, Dunlap made the decision to serve his country and was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps Reserve in 1942. His initial training took him through the rigorous regimen of Marine Corps officer preparation, which emphasized physical endurance, tactical thinking, and small unit leadership. Dunlap's early assignments placed him in various stateside postings before he deployed to the Pacific Theater. He served with distinction in earlier operations, gaining a reputation for his composure under pressure and his ability to inspire confidence in his men. His professionalism and tactical skill did not go unnoticed, and by the time the invasion of Iwo Jima was being planned, he was promoted to captain and given command of Company C, 1st Battalion, 26th Marines. The role carried immense responsibility. Company commanders were not only expected to direct their units in combat, but also to maintain morale in the most harrowing conditions. Dunlap embraced this responsibility fully, taking a personal interest in the welfare and readiness of his Marines. His combination of discipline, compassion, and tactical acuity made him a respected and trusted leader. After the war, Dunlap returned to Illinois, where he built a life beyond the battlefield. He married, became an active community member, and pursued a career in education, eventually serving as a school principal. Despite the passage of years, he remained deeply connected to his Marine Corps roots and committed to honoring the sacrifices of those who served. Robert Hugo Dunlap passed away on March 24, 2000, leaving behind a legacy defined by courage, leadership, and a lifelong dedication to service. Medal of Honor citation: for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life, above and beyond the call of duty as commanding officer, Company C, 1st Battalion, 26th Marines, 5th Marine Division, during the seizure of Iwo Jima, Volcano Islands, February 20th to 21st, 1945. Assuming command of the company under attack in a critical area on the morning of the first day, Captain Dunlap immediately reorganized and advanced his unit in the face of heavy hostile machine gun, mortar, and artillery fire to a position from which he could control and coordinate the assault. With exceptional skill, he led his men in a determined attack against a strong enemy position, which had held up the advance for 2 days, personally braving the deadly fire to move forward of his front lines and direct the assault. On the following day, he again moved alone far in advance of his front lines under heavy enemy fire to reconnoiter the Japanese defenses, skillfully locating several gun positions which had been causing severe casualties to his battalion. Although continually in danger from enemy riflemen and machine gunners, he remained in this exposed position for 2 hours, coolly directing the attack by radio and relaying vital information which made possible the destruction of the enemy defense. By his outstanding leadership, indomitable fighting spirit, and resolute devotion to duty, Captain Dunlap contributed materially to the success of his battalion in this vital sector of the battle and upheld the highest traditions of the United States Naval Service. Where valor was forged. What follows is a blend of recorded history and dramatized combat detail, intended to bring to life the courage, conditions, and combat faced by Captain Robert Hugo Dunlap and his Marines during the Battle of Iwo Jima. While certain sensory and tactical elements have been reconstructed for narrative immersion, the sequence of events remains faithful to the official record of his actions on February 20th and February 21st, 1945. The morning of February 20th broke with a haze of volcanic dust hanging in the air, the acrid smell of burnt powder and diesel exhaust clinging to every breath. The black ash of Iwo Jima crunched under the boots of Company C's Marines as they prepared to move. The horizon was blurred by the rolling smoke of naval gunfire impacts, and the sharp chatter of Japanese Nambu machine guns raked across the shattered terrain in front of them. Captain Robert Hugo Dunlap, his M1 carbine slung and binoculars bouncing against his chest, surveyed the rise ahead. Intelligence had reported a network of caves and pillboxes dug into the bluffs, positions that had already bled the regiment for 2 days straight. He knew they had to be taken, and fast, or the advance would stall. Enemy fire erupted almost as soon as Dunlap's forward elements pushed past the last shallow depression that served as cover. Mortar rounds impacted with concussive thumps, spraying jagged shards of steel. A man to Dunlap's left was thrown to the ground, his helmet spinning away. Dunlap crouched low, barking orders to redistribute the squads along a staggered skirmish line, each fire team using the terrain's slight folds for what meager protection they could offer. Second squad, suppress the left. Third, shift fire on that ridgeline. His voice carried above the din, cutting through the chaos. He pushed forward, weaving between crouched Marines, radio handset in hand. Calling to his supporting weapons, he used short, clipped transmissions, AB6, this is Charlie 6, fire machine grid 724-559, enemy machine gun position in rocky outcrop, danger close, over. Seconds later, the heavy thump of 81mm mortars answered, white puffs marking the ridgeline as shrapnel tore into the rocks. Still, the Japanese fire did not falter, it only shifted, probing for weakness. Crawling to the forwardmost fighting hole, Dunlap peered through his binoculars, tracing the arc of tracer fire back to its source. He spotted the glint of a gun shield half hidden by sandbags and blasted rock. Dropping into the hole beside a young corporal, he pointed it out, his orders crisp and unhesitating. "We will flank it. Get your men ready to bound forward on my mark. Keep low, keep moving." When the mark came, Dunlap led from the front, sprinting in short bursts, diving into cover, pulling others along with him through the jagged maze of shell craters. By early afternoon, Company C had clawed its way to a position from which Dunlap could direct the final assault on the strong point. Machine guns and rifles spat lead as bazooka teams edged into position. At Dunlap's signal, they fired, the backblast mixing with the roar of automatic weapons. A gaping hole appeared in the pillbox wall, and Marines poured fire into the breach. Within minutes, the position that had held them up for days was silent but for the groans of the wounded enemy. The following morning, February 21st, Dunlap once again advanced far beyond his own front lines, this time alone. With his carbine slung and field glasses in hand, he picked his way through the broken landscape, keeping low, his eyes scanning for enemy positions. Japanese snipers' shots snapped overhead, chips of volcanic rock stinging his face. He kept moving, crawling when the terrain offered no concealment, his senses locked on the mission. From a shallow depression, he spotted several camouflaged gun emplacements that had been raking his battalion's flanks. He keyed his handset again, his voice steady despite the hostile fire. Charlie 6 to Able 6, adjust fire, new coordinates, 3 enemy machine guns in interlocking field, over. For nearly 2 hours, he remained in this exposed position, methodically calling in corrections as Marine artillery and mortars smashed the concealed position. Each impact brought a small but critical reduction in the withering fire that had stalled their advance. By the time he returned to his own lines, his uniform was torn, his canteen hauled by a near miss, but his face betrayed no hint of exhaustion. The intelligence he had gathered and the fire missions he had coordinated had opened the way forward for his battalion. In 2 days of relentless action, Dunlap's leadership had transformed an impossible sector into a foothold for victory, and in doing so he had secured his place among the storied leaders of the Marine Corps. Reflections and lessons learned. Robert Hugo Dunlap's actions on Iwo Jima reveal a central truth about leadership in combat, that the most effective leaders are those willing to share the risks they ask of their men. By advancing under fire, taking personal responsibility for reconnaissance, and directing supporting fires from exposed positions, Dunlap demonstrated that trust and respect are earned through example, not simply by rank. His willingness to push beyond the front lines speaks to another quality critical in both war and peace: initiative. On Iwo Jima, waiting for perfect conditions or additional support would have allowed the enemy to maintain the advantage. By acting decisively, even under less than ideal circumstances, Dunlap turned a stalemate into an opportunity for progress. This principle applies far beyond the battlefield, reminding us that timely, informed action often determines success. There is also a profound lesson in adaptability. The shifting conditions of the fight required constant adjustments in tactics, communication, and coordination. Dunlap's ability to rapidly assess the situation, reposition his Marines, and adjust fire missions reflects a mindset that thrives in uncertainty, a skill equally vital in modern military operations, business, and crisis management. Finally, Dunlap's story underscores the enduring value of courage under pressure. His actions were not rash, they were calculated risks, taken in service of a clear objective. That balance, bravery guided by sound judgment, remains a model for leaders in any arena. It is a reminder that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it in pursuit of a cause greater than oneself. Closing. Robert Hugo Dunlap's legacy is one of steadfast courage, selfless leadership, and unwavering commitment to the mission and his men. On the black sands and jagged ridges of Iwo Jima, he demonstrated what it means to lead from the front, to shoulder the burdens of command while sharing the dangers of those he commanded. His actions not only shaped the outcome of a critical sector in one of the Pacific War's bloodiest battles, but also became a lasting example of the Marine Corps' highest ideals. Today, his story continues to inspire service members, leaders, and citizens alike. It stands as a reminder that true heroism is measured not in moments of ease, but in the crucible of adversity, when resolve, skill, and courage are tested to their limits. By remembering and sharing the story of Robert Hugo Dunlap, we honor not only his sacrifice, but also the enduring values he embodied, values that remain as relevant now as they were on the beaches of Iwo Jima.